All right, Shalom. Call hello Yahweh Bashim Hawashai Bahashim Rakakadash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to the Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 144% truth and sincerity, and unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Bayat, the Dabadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad. I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. All right. This afternoon's lesson is entitled Familiar Spirits, Sorcery, Philosophy. All right. So we're going to get started with the book of Leviticus. It's going to be chapter 19, verse 31. And it says, regard not them that have familiar spirits, neither seek after wizards to be defiled by them. I am the Lord your power. All right. So we are not to regard those that have familiar spirits. Familiar spirits, speaking of sorcery, neither seek after wizards, those people that are diviners or soothsayers, people that believe that they could speak to the dead, and you shouldn't be defiled with them. We are not to be defiled with them, or not defiled by them. Okay, we are not to become, corrupt by their ways. I am the Lord your power. All right. So, idolatry and sorcery, that's it's lucky that's in fact, let me get this right here. This is Leviticus chapter 20, verse 6. Just the Spirit just brought me here to this scripture before I go to the next one. It says, and the soul that turneth after such as have familiar spirits, and after wizards, to go a whoring after them, I will even set my face against that soul, and will cut him off from among his people. It says, verse 7, sanctify yourselves therefore, and be ye holy, for I am the Lord your power. All right, so if you turn to those that sorcery, that witchcraft, to go whoring after, spiritual, that idolatry, the Lord will set his face against you, which means he's going to be against you, and he's going to cut you off from among his people. All right, you're going to be a heathen in his eyes. So that's why you're supposed to sanctify yourselves, therefore, and be holy, to be separate from the ways of these other heathen nations. That's why we made that covenant with Yahweh Bashim Hawashai back in ancient times when Moses was leading us. All right, let's go next to so it's going to be Deuteronomy. It's going to be chapter 18. Chapter 18. Chapter 18, verse 10. Actually, I'll start at verse 9. When thou art come into the land which the Lord thy power giveth thee, thou shalt not learn to do after the abominations of those nations. Roughly paraphrasing Jeremiah, the 10th chapter, it says, not to learn the ways of the heathen. So we are to separate ourselves from those other philosophies and, worldly ways that in the Lord's eyes just an abomination. It's foolishness. Verse 10, there shall not be found among you anyone that maketh his son or his daughter to pass through the fire. To pass through fire is we're saying to transgress the Lord's anger, or that useth divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. So to pass through the fire, meaning to transgress the Lord's anger. And how do we do that? By sinning, because sin is transgression of the law, or that use a divination, or an observer of times, or an enchanter, or a witch. Verse 11, or a charmer, or a consulter with familiar spirits, or a wizard, or a necromancer. Verse 12, for all that do these things are an abomination unto the Lord, and because of these abominations the Lord thy power doth drive them out from before thee. And verse 13 says, thou shalt be perfect with the Lord thy power. All right. In verse 14, it says, for those nations which thou shalt possess, hearken unto observers of times and unto diviners. But as for thee, the Lord thy power hath not suffered thee to do so. Suffer thee so to do. All right. So we are not to allow ourselves nor our descendants, sons or daughters, to indulge in these wicked acts. All right. Because they are an abomination, and the Lord does not want us to have anything to do with that stuff. He wants us to follow his ways because, one, he brought us up forth out of the land of Egypt and gave us that covenant, that contract that was signed in blood, that we're to follow him and do as he says, follow his way, not the way of these other people. All right? The other nations, they're the ones that do all that sorcery stuff, okay? But for us, we are to be of a different sort, the holy sort. All right, and we're supposed to be perfect with the Lord, Perfect, just meaning to be blameless, pure, and to follow the right way, his way. Okay? Next is going to be the book of Isaiah. This is Isaiah chapter 8, verse 19. And it says, and when they shall say unto you, seek unto them that have familiar spirits, and unto wizards that peep in that and that mutter, should not a people seek unto their power for the living to the dead? So, why would you seek after the dead? Why not seek after the Lord, who's the controller and creator of all things? Why give heed unto these unto these people that follow these crooked ways? When you have this is what you need. This is what you should follow. In fact, you know what? Where's that scripture? It's in 2 Corinthians. Excuse me. 2 Corinthians, it's chapter... Aha, there it is. 2 Corinthians chapter 11, verse 3. But I fear lest by any means, as the serpent beguiled Eve, another word for beguile is deceive, through his subtlety, so your mind should be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Hamashiach. So, just like the serpent deceived Eve, we should allow ourselves to be corrupted from the simplicity that is in Hamashiach. So we should allow ourselves to be brainwashed, to be retaught again, to learn the ways of the word. People say that we're brainwashed, and I tell them, yeah, I am. I'm brainwashed by righteousness, not by the wicked ways of this world that you choose to follow. So yeah, I am brainwashed. We are fools for Hamashiach's sake, pursuant to 1 Corinthians chapter 4, verse 10, I believe. But we're brainwashed by the word, not by the ways of this world. All right. Going back to Isaiah chapter 8, I'm going to now into verse 20 now. To the law and to the testimony, if they speak not according to this word, is because there is no light in them. So they don't have the truth in them if they don't speak according to the Bible. There's no truth in them. No understanding, no knowledge, nothing. Verse 21, and they shall possess through it. I'm sorry, it's like in verse 21, and they shall pass through it, hardly bested and hungry. It shall come to pass that when they shall be hungry, they shall fret themselves and curse their king and their God and look upward. Verse 22, and they shall look unto the earth and behold trouble and darkness, dimness of anguish, and they shall be driven to darkness. All right, so, all the people that put their trust in the worldly ways and not into the true way, eventually it's going to come to a point where they're going to bug out, because they thought that by leaning upon their own understanding and following other philosophies, they try to find their own way. And roughly paraphrasing, there is a way which seemeth right unto a man, but the end thereof are the ways of death. So eventually these people are going to bug out and die in their own folly because they choose not to hearken unto this. All right. That's this also goes to the 2/3 of our own people, because they choose not to hearken. They choose to dwell in the world. They worship the god of this world, which is Satan. They choose to follow their slave master, Esau Edom, who runs the world right now. All right, so we're going to go to Wisdom of Solomon. Wisdom of Solomon, chapter 14. Chapter 14, verse 11. And it says, therefore, even upon the idols of the Gentiles there shall there be a visitation, because in the creature of the Most High they are become an abomination and stumbling blocks to the souls of men, and a snare to the feet of the unwise. For the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, and the invention of them the corruption of life. So, because of idolatry and spiritual, because of these false gods, the Lord is going to destroy these false gods that bring about, all this corruption of life and philosophy and, wickedness. Because these other heathen nations, they've corrupted 2/3 of our people with their own philosophies. And, 2/3 can't seem to let go of that shit. They're stuck on it. They're stuck on Muslim, Buddhism, Hindu. They're stuck on that shit. They can't, that's why the Lord, he blinded them, because they're not going to get it, Our people are destroyed for a lack of knowledge, Hosea 4:6. And so, like I said, verse 12, for the devising of idols was the beginning of spiritual fornication, spiritual adultery, turning to other gods, and the invention of them the corruption of life. So by creating graven images made of wood and stone is the corruption of life, wickedness. It is just, and what does wickedness bring forth? It brings forth sin and ultimately death. That's why the Lord is going to destroy everything that these people worship, and he's going to make it known. He's going to make his power known that he is the power, and he's the only one. All right, and it says, verse 13, for neither were they from the beginning, neither shall they be forever. So they weren't here from the beginning, and they're not going to be even to this day. Like I said, they're not going to be forever. So Yahweh B'Shem Yahushua is going to destroy everything that these people believe in, Christianity, Catholicism, and all this other crap that is man-made. And it says here, verse 14, for by the vainglory of men they entered into the world, and therefore shall they come shortly to an end. So, vainglory, they entered into the world. You know, they didn't keep that. They had that carnal mindset. They didn't have a spiritual mindset, so they entered into the world, and therefore shall come. They therefore shall they come shortly to an end. So, you know, the ways this world come, they all come. It comes to an end. Nothing in this world is going to last forever. So you can't. That's why again, Proverbs 3:5. Trust in the Lord with all thine heart, and lean not into thine own understanding. Okay? Forget what you think you know, because you really don't know anything. You really don't. And turn unto the Lord to know, well, to learn and know something. Humble yourself and be willing to be retaught and, you know, start over. There's no shame in that, because Yahweh Shem Shai is truth, and he's going to feed you the right thing. He's not the author of confusion. All right, now we're going to go to get an example here in the book of Genesis. This is going to be Genesis chapter 3. Genesis chapter 3, starting at verse 1. Now the serpent was more subtle than any beast of the field, which the Lord Yahweh the power had made. And he said unto the woman, hath the Most High said, ye shall not eat of every tree of the garden. Okay? And the trees, they represent the other nations. All right? Verse 2. And the woman said unto the serpent, we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, and the fruit represents the philosophy. Now, when she said we may eat of the fruit of the trees of the garden, now, the trees of the garden, that's talking about, you know, the trees of our people, our ways, the right ways. All right? Which is ultimately Yahweh Shem Shai's way. And then verse 3, and it says, but of the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, the Most High hath said, ye shall not eat of it, neither shall ye touch it, lest ye die. All right? So that fruit, the fruit of the tree which is in the midst of the garden, that's talking about the philosophies of the other nations. And the serpent said, verse 4, and the serpent said unto the woman, ye shall not surely die. So technically, he did tell her the truth, she shall not surely die, because pursuant to Ecclesiastes chapter 8, verse 11, let me get it because I don't want to mess it up. Chapter 8, verse 11, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily, therefore the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil. So, like I said, because this is Ecclesiastes 8 and 11, because sentence against an evil work is not executed speedily. So just because it doesn't happen right then and there, it doesn't mean it won't happen later. Therefore, the heart of the sons of men is fully set in them to do evil, because they think they're going to get away with it. All right, going back. Genesis chapter 3, verse 5. For the Most High doeth know that in the day ye eat thereof, then your eyes shall be opened, and ye shall be as gods, knowing good and evil. So this was talking about the serpent back in the garden, which was not literal. It was not a literal snake. It was a man, because when you look up the word serpent and the metaphorically, it means when you call someone a serpent, you're talking about someone who is deceitful, untrustworthy, or crafty. All right? That's not talking about an actual snake. And so he pretty much was deceiving Eve, and you shall be as gods, knowing good and evil, so you shall be equal to the man. So, you know, where do we live? And we live in a society where women are pretty much equal to the man. In fact, they hold authority over the man, which is out of order, pursuant to Jeremiah 31:22, a woman shall compass a man, roughly paraphrasing, meaning that a woman can now usurp authority over a man, tell a man what to do. This is a wicked-ass queendom, and it has that feminist spirit, And it's verse 6, and it says, "And when the woman saw that the tree was good for food, and that it was pleasant to the eyes, and a tree to be desired to make one wise, she took of the fruit thereof, and did eat, and gave also unto her husband with her, and he did eat." So she pretty much, poisoned. Not only did she take those philosophies in, and then she turned around, she poisoned Adam with them. All right. So, that was the time, the fall of man, the first time they went off. But it first started with Eve because she was the first one to commit that abominable act, disobedience, giving into those familiar spirits, sorcery, and philosophy, man. And let's see. Get This is Ezekiel Chapter 31, verse 6. It says, "All the fowls of heaven made their nests in his boughs. Under his branches did all the beasts of the field bring forth their young, and under his shadow dwelt all great nations." All right, this was talking about, verse 7. Let me get verse 7. "Thus was he fair in his greatness, in the length of his branches, for his root was by great waters." So this was talking about the Adamites, The Adamites back then, they were the ones that did right, but all these other people back then in those times, they weren't. Let me get verse 8 here. It says, "The cedars in the garden of the Most High could not hide him. The fir trees were not like his boughs, and the chestnut trees were not like his branches. Not any tree in the garden of the Most High was like unto him in his beauty." So back then, the Adamites, we were basically the top of the food chain. All the other nations, they didn't. We were the only ones that knew right, but we knew good, but we didn't know evil at the time. And it says here in verse 9, "I have made him fair by the multitude of his branches, so that all trees of Eden that were in the garden of the Most High envied him." So all the other nations envied the Adamites because we were that chosen branch, the chosen tree, so to speak, that the Most High was dealing with. He wasn't dealing with everybody. And the Adamites today through the Spirit, are the Israelites. So just like how the Lord chose Adam back then, all the way from Noah, Shem, Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, all the way up till now. So see, we were the right ones, the good ones, but at the time we didn't know good and evil. So in order to be a righteous judge, you have to not only know good, but you also have to know wickedness. And so we're going to go to Psalms. Psalms chapter 6, verse 35. "But we are mingled among the heathen and learned their works." And verse 36, "And they served their idols, which were a snare unto them." Verse 7, "Yeah, they sacrificed their sons and their daughters unto devils." All right, so by being mingled among these other nations, being destroyed for a lack of knowledge. We learned their ways, their works, and we served their idols, which were a snare unto. It was a trap to blind them, to blind us, from knowing the truth. Like I said, Jeremiah chapter 10 says, learn not the ways of the heathen. In fact, let me see if I can find that. Yep. Jeremiah chapter 10, starting at verse 1. Hear ye the word which the Lord speaketh unto you, O house of Israel. Verse 2. Thus saith the Lord, learn not the way of the heathen, and be not dismayed at the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. Okay? Learn not the way of the heathen. The Lord spoke to Israel, saying this. Learn not their ways. Do not be dismayed or in shock or fear of the signs of heaven, for the heathen are dismayed at them. All right? So, you can even go to the book of First Maccabees. First Maccabees chapter 1, verse 11, and it says here, verse 11, in those days went there out of Israel wicked men who persuaded many, saying, let us go and make a covenant with the heathen that are round about us. For since we departed from them, we have had much sorrow. So, it says here, so verse 12, so this device pleased them well. Verse 13, then certain of the people were so forward herein that they went to the king, who gave them license to do after the ordinances of the heathen. So we willingly gave our, in those days, the Israelites willingly gave themselves into the ways of the heathen, learning their customs and courtesies. That's that goes into how how we became Hellenized, became known as Gentiles. Israelite foreigners that were Israelites, but we lost our true way because we, like I said, we took in the customs of the other nations. All right. I'm going to go next to this is going to be the book of 1 Timothy. 1 Timothy chapter 4, verse 1. Now the Spirit speaketh expressly that in the latter times some shall depart from the faith, giving heed to seducing spirits and doctrines of devils. Verse 2, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with a hot iron. So, some people that are in this truth right now, in these latter days, they're gonna depart from the faith, depart from the word, and give heed to seducing spirits. They're gonna allow themselves to fall right back into that heathenistic mindset, giving into doctrines of devils, speaking lies and hypocrisy, having their conscience seared with the hot iron. I mean, the Lord is, sealing their, hardening their heart from understanding this truth, knowledge and understanding. So when you speak it to them, they're not going to get it because they're already so drowned into the other ways of the heathen, the worldly ways that this. No matter if you broke this truth down to them, showed them the secular history, proved it to them in all ways, they're not going to get it because Yahweh Shem Yahshai had their conscience seared with a hot iron, just saying that he blocked them from getting it. He blocked them out completely. All right. This is going to be Colossians chapter 2, verse 8, and it says, Actually, I'm going to start at... I'm going to start at... I'm going to start at verse 2. That their hearts might be comforted, being knit together in love, and unto all riches of the full assurance of understanding, to the acknowledgement of the mystery of the Most High, and of the Father, Yahweh, and of Hamashiach Yahweh Shai. All right? Being in this truth, the brotherhood, that our minds might be comforted and being knit together, meaning to be on one accord, in love, and unto all riches of the full assurance of understanding, which is of this truth, and to the acknowledgement of the mystery of the Most High. We are to be on, that our minds are comforted by these scriptures and that we are like-minded, we're on one accord. Verse 3, in whom are hid all the treasures of wisdom and knowledge. Verse 4, and this I say, lest any man should beguile you with enticing words, that philosophy and familiar spirits. Verse 5, for though I be absent in the flesh, yet I am with you in the spirit, joying in beholding your order and the steadfastness of your faith in Hamashiach. So even though the Lord is absent in the flesh, he's still with us in the spirit. And that gives us that faith booster to keep pushing, roots us deeply into this so that we cannot be, beguiled by enticing words. Verse 6, as ye have therefore received Yahweh Shai Hamashiach the Lord, so walk ye in him. 7, rooted and built up in him and established in the faith, as ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. So we are to be rooted and built up in this word, because Yahweh Shai is the word, and established in the faith that ye have been taught, abounding therein with thanksgiving. So basically giving all the honor, glory, and praise to Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai, giving him the praise, honor, and glory always. So, and it says here, verse 8, beware lest any man spoil you through philosophy and vain deceit, after the tradition of men, after the rudiments of the world, and not after Hamashiach. All right? So you have to be aware of people who come at you with these other ideas that are outside the truth. You can't, even if you come at them with the truth in return, we don't care if they get mad. I'm just not going to bend to your worldly philosophy. That's just it. I'm not, you can call me narrow-minded and saying every other way is wrong or whatnot, but that's okay. I really don't care. I'm here to do the work of Yahweh Bashim Yahweh Shai. I'm not here to appease you or the world. Okay? And now I'm going to go back to... go back to Wisdom of Solomon. It's going to be chapter 14, and verse 27. And it says here, for the worshipping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. So, because the reason why is because idolatry. And what's the first commandment? Thou shalt not have any other gods before me. These wacky tacky Christians, they go by supposedly they go by the 10 Commandments, which they really don't. They really don't. And because they worship Jesus, the oppressor, Sorcery, Borgia. You try to tell them that who this so-called white man is in this picture posing as the Messiah. You tell them that that's really Sorcery, Borgia. You tell them to go look it up. Look up the history and how that came to be. They still won't believe it. That's just how strong this devil has put. That's just how strong this devil's poison is in the minds of these people. He has completely doused their minds in his poisonous philosophy. So, 2/3 of our people have to go. As for the heathen, we don't care about them anyway. But yeah, so idolatry, I'm going to read again. Wisdom of Solomon 14:27. For the worshiping of idols, not to be named, is the beginning, the cause, and the end of all evil. So judgment is the end all be all for worshiping these idols. Judgment, destruction. And it says, let's see. So yeah, that was pretty much it. This hope that this lesson was edifying. So we're almost out of here, and things are turning up. People are, you gotta be rooted in this because you gotta. In these days, man, people are gonna be turning to witchcraft and trying to deceive many, even possibly try to deceive the very elect. So you gotta have your mind completely doused with this truth. You got to meditate upon the scriptures to ingrain them into your mind. That's part of having them rewritten in your inward parts. So that way what you believe in, the truth, versus what people of this world believe in. See, Yahweh, Ba'Shem Yahushai, made a separation between the truth and worldly philosophy. So, and we, through the grace and mercy of Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, the water Yahweh Ba'Shem Yahushai, for waking us up so that we could get it, and that we could understand who we are and whose we are, and what this truth entails and what we're really involved in. All right? So I hope this lesson was edifying unto the body and unto the sheep, and to those that are new, coming in, listening and learning with all sincerity. I'd like to give all honor, glory, and praise unto Yahweh, Bahashem, Yahweh Shai, Bahashem, Rakat Kodash. Double honors and respect to the elders and to the apostles of Great Millstone. Peace and blessing to all the Akim that are preaching and teaching this word with 144% truth and sincerity. And unto the men, women, and children that are listening and learning, and unto the Bayath Adobadah, the elect house of David that is scattered abroad, I give you my utmost and sincere salutations. Okay? See you on the next lesson, Lord willing. Kwam Yasharala, Wa Abba Abba. Shalom, Barakatham.